And good day to you, fellow Watford supporters, on YouTube and on X. The final score from Turf Moor, Burnley 2, Watford 1. It was a game for the last few minutes at least where Watford had a possibility of staging a comeback, but it was not to be. Watford lose their first game in 7 with this defeat. They played poorly, quite frankly, for the vast majority of this match. My name is Omar. Welcome again to You ORNS post-match on YouTube and on X. Delighted to have you here joining us. The story of this game was somewhat like the game against Leeds earlier in the season, where we did not play well for the vast majority of the game, but later on in the second half showed something about ourselves, but couldn't quite get over the hump. This happened again. Quadro Bar scored against Leeds at Elland Road way back when in October, whenever it was, when we played poorly against Leeds, but could not get over the hump. And he scored again today, where we played poorly against the Burnley side that have only conceded, what now, 9 goals this season, but we couldn't quite get over the hump. Same situation, except this game, Burnley dominated. Burnley should have run out winners easily by more than 2-1. You got the idea that this was going to be a long game. I predicted 2-2. And I thought for a while that we were going to have that when Barr scored that really good goal. We only had 3 shots on target, I think, or maybe 2 on target, and maybe 3 the whole game. We were really poor today, but that has a lot to do with Burnley's defending. They did their job well. They closed out well. We did not close out well at all in these games, in this game today. And this is why Watford are going to finish 8th, where I predicted that they would finish before the start of the season. We just are not good enough away from home. We leave it to too little, too late. And if we had played the way we did the last 10 minutes of that contest in the first 80 minutes, we would have probably got a point out of it. Burnley, very stubborn. Burnley played well. Burnley dominated the first half. They played well second half, but we just did not do enough in this game. Our midfield was non-existent today. We missed Imran Louza. I think that's very clear for any Watford fan that we missed Imran Louza dearly today. He was ill, and so you can't have an ill player on the pitch. That's not going to make any sense. And so, look, we really missed him today. Droma did not do what I was hoping he would do. What we were hoping he would do wasn't the same kind of Droma today, but the whole side lacked a little bit today. The defensive intensity was low. We sat off way too much. We played deep too many times in this game, and we sat off way too much for that second Burnley goal. That was a problem for me. We just gave him too much space, and that was really what happened in this game. Not good enough from us. Daniel Batman was poor. Let's be fair about that. He was poor today. For those of you who want Jonathan Bond back, this would be an advertisement for why he should come back into the side. I mean, look, Batman has been better in recent weeks, but today was not one of them. He was having a go at Porteous at the end there. I don't know why. He's blaming Porteous for why he kicked the ball, skewed the ball out of the stadium. I mean, come on, Daniel. You've got to kick the ball better than that. End of story, Daniel. Come on now. You can't blame Porteous. Porteous has been good all season. Porteous had a good run the last few weeks. It's not Porteous's fault that you're slicing the ball into the stands at Turf Moor. Don't blame him. It's not Porteous's problem that you're not kicking the ball properly, and that you're kicking the ball to Burnley players today, and that the Watford side in general is passing all over the place and booting the ball down the pitch. It's not Porteous's fault for that. You know, I mean, I don't think Porteous was bad today. The whole team did not play well. I want to invite you to have your say on X. For those of you watching on X and listening on X, just to say thank you so much for coming aboard, fellow Watford supporters. Hit the request button and like to hear from you about what you thought of this game. Now, there were a lot of Watford fans that traveling, as what, 800, 600, whatever it was up there at Turf Moor. Kudos to the Watford faithful for traveling all the way up to the northwest in that horrible weather. You know, Turf Moor is a very wretched place to come to, and to come to Turf Moor, and all you fans up there, you got to give yourselves a round of applause to come up there and watch that dross today. It was a mess, and that weather was awful. Let's face it. It's been always a shocking time to come up to Turf Moor when you have weather like this, as always in the northwest. But listen, I want to say thank you to those Watford fans up there who traveled. And unfortunately, we didn't get the win. We didn't get a draw either. But look, the bottom line is we just didn't perform today, and we didn't perform well enough. You've got to give Burnley some credit. Gary says I sound like I'm trapped in a biscuit underwater. Oh, dear. Thank you, Gary. I think I need to do something there to make that go away. Oh, that's terrible. I've been on X, and I've been sounding terrible. I hope that you can hear me better now. Can anybody hear me better? Um, can anybody hear me better now on X? I apologize for that. Hopefully, you can give me a hand signal saying that you can, a good hand signal. But I hope you can hear me now. Oh dear, oh dear. I apologize profusely to those of you on X who couldn't hear anything that I was saying. Oh, God, I do hope that you can hear me any better now. I'm so sorry about that. And thank you, Gary, for giving me the thumbs up. Gosh, I've been talking like someone goggling boiled eggs over the last few hours, few hours. Yeah. Oh God, the last few minutes. I'm sorry about that, Watford fans on X. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Thank you for alerting me about that. The two of you who did, Ed, and also and also Gary. Thank you for letting me know that I was making a complete idiot of myself, and not for the first time on this post match. Listen, you got to see the funny side of these things because it wasn't funny today for Watford. Brown Electrons, thank you on YouTube for saying that the sound's okay there. Yeah, it's definitely was not a YouTube problem. It was an Omar problem on X. It was a Bluetooth problem, quite frankly. And actually, the reason why my sound was so terrible is because I had the Bluetooth on and my headphones were picking up the audio. So you were hearing me through my headphones, which I have stored in an adjacent room. That is how I think Watford had their kicking their football boots in an adjacent room today because they just did not have them on. We had 3 shots, I think the total 3 shots in the whole game. We were awful out there. This is a game that for the first time in a long time, we played really poorly in. And again, I really do appreciate you, Watford fans, for sticking with it here after that goggle fest that you heard the first couple of minutes. I'm going to obviously, when I edit this, I'm going to have to obviously eliminate the first 2-3 minutes of it because my God, that was awful. Thank you again for those fans who did alert me to that wretchedness of an opening. But Watford were wretched today. Let's face it. Unless you give Burnley the credit, they're third for a reason. You know, they have conceded at home just 4 goals if you include Quadro Bar's strike. And the bottom line is that we didn't trouble Young Trafford, I nicknamed him as opposed to Old Trafford. But he could have been Old Trafford today, James Trafford, in that Burnley goal because he had nothing to do. He had nothing to do today. The only 2 chances there were 2 or 3 things we made him do. When Jeremy Ngakia first half gave him that long ball that it almost caught him out. And then the other 2 chances, obviously, was the Quadro Bar goal. And I think Rocco Vata had a shot on target or a shot to speak of. But it was a really poor effort from Watford today. Cleverly realized that, changed the formation, went to the flat back 3 instead of the back 4. I think that helped them a bit because they got a bit more going forward in the midfield areas. You brought on Festia Vaselli, who I thought looked better. You brought off Larousse, who had an off game. You brought on Kayembe, who actually I think perked things up a little bit. Sissoko was awful today. Let's face it, that was a nightmare. Sissoko, who I thought had a first good few games of the season, has really been up and down this season. Not one of his better seasons now so far. He's been very erratic, Sissoko, and sometimes downright shocking. It's been a poor run for him. He's been very on and off, giving up balls in dangerous areas today. The whole team did that. It was not one of his best games. I can say that about him. So Sissoko, unfortunately, was not good enough. The team did not play well. Burnley played their brand of football. You knew what Burnley were going to do. They should have had more than 2 goals. We scored a goal against them, which I guess is something of a moral victory, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't get any points. And so as a result of that, if you look at our stats today in this game, you will see what happened. The tail of the tape was very, very clear for Burnley today with Watford. The stats were Burnley 55% possession, Watford 44%, shots 15 for them, 9 for us. And if you look at what else happened for Watford in this game, 26 touches for Burnley, 13 in the box for Watford, 3 goalkeeping saves for us, 1 for Burnley. And look, we only had 3 corners in this game. Burnley had 7. So look, that really tells you everything you need to know about this particular game. It was not one of the games that Watford will look back on fondly, but there is a lot to learn from this game. We just have to be more incisive. We have to be more aggressive away from home. I thought that for the first 3 minutes of the game, we were very aggressive, which I thought was good. But I think all of that turned out to be nervous energy because we didn't do anything else the whole entire game except for the final 7 or 8, 9 minutes with the bar strike. And if we had got that strike in the first 9 or 10 minutes of the game, of course, obviously, it would have been, of course, a different matter. But unfortunately for us, just didn't have the ideas today. And that's down to Burnley. It's also down to us, just didn't have it. We were losing too many balls in dangerous areas. Midfield, we really missed losers today. I think that's really a big part of this as well. I think that he could have brought some stabilization to our game. He could have given us a bit more sticking possession. We didn't have enough of the ball to do anything with this game. And I think that was really down to the absence of loser. I think sometimes one player can make a difference. When you're talking about an absent player, if you look at, I mean, again, really horrible comparison, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Manchester City, who missed Rodri, you see how he in midfield and his absence has affected them completely. I mean, look, they just can't stop losing games, City, And look, Watford today, for the first time in a few weeks, looked really, really abject. This is actually the first defeat since the Swansea loss. And we weren't good in that game. We looked poor in that game, and the same thing today. And what do we have in common with that game? Both of those games are played away from home. What does that mean? We just don't play well on the road in these games. We played better, played very well against Plymouth and didn't get the point, didn't win that game. We played not so great against Hull, got the point late. We have to start turning points into wins away from home, and we have to stop these defeats away from home, obviously. So we have now, to the top 3 or 4, lost all 4 of the games. We've lost to Sheffield United, we've lost to Leeds, we've lost to Burnley. So I should say the top 3. We lost 3 of these games now, all away from home to the top 3 or thereabouts. So, all 3 of them teams, Sheffield United, Leeds, and Burnley, those are the top 3 at present. And those are the teams we lost to. End of story. Away from home. All of those away from home. And as long as we keep losing these games, we are not going to finish in the playoff spots. Bottom line is we need to start winning these games. Barr scored his goal in the 80th minute. Brownhill for Burnley got the goal. The winning goal was his in the 62nd minute. He was deemed the man of the match for Burnley. Jaden Anthony in the 9th minute. Those 2 goals really were the difference in the game, obviously. Daniel Batman, a forgettable game for him. Look, the bottom line is that the whole team was poor today. Barr showed you a little bit of something. I thought Barr had some good moments. Jefferson came on the pitch. Not much to write home about from a Jefferson point of view. But Bio today tried to get on the end of a chance that Pollock headed. It was just beyond him. But Barr did it. Bio did his running. He did all the things he usually does, but he did not score. In this one, unfortunately for him, he had a brace the previous game, did not get on the score sheet this time. So we lost 2-1 today after winning 2-1 at the beginning of the week. So we bookend this final week before Christmas with 2-1 results. A 2-1 win for us on Sunday of this week, and we end this week with a 2-1 defeat to Burnley. So that's really how it goes. The final game before Christmas, it ends an undefeated streak of 6 games, which started with that game against the game after the Swansea game. So it's our first loss in 7 now. Burnley 2, Watford 1 was the final score. I predicted a 2-2 game, and again, for quite some time after that Barr strike, it looked like we could have got that second goal. So bottom line is, it was not to be today. Let me read out your comments as far as you are concerned on YouTube. Thank you very much indeed, those of you joining there. Before we say goodbye to those of you on X, I do want to read out your YouTube comments so you can hear those on X. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing the 1984 FA Cup final scarf. If I can show that to you, I think you can see that on YouTube at the moment. The 84 Cup final, you can see 1984 Cup final there, as you can see at Wembley. Yep, it's been that long since that cup final. We had one, of course, in 2019. But there we go. I'm wearing the actual scarf that I had at that game. I still have it. Look, I still have that scarf from 40 years ago, mate. Those of you who cannot see this on X, obviously, please head to the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel where you will be able to watch this live. Please subscribe and like the videos as well. For those of you who are doing that, thank you so much for your subscription and for liking this video as well. I want to read out the comments as promised before I do head to Instagram land for You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live. For those Watford fans on X, thank you for joining, but I'll read these comments first before departing. Brown Electron says, we've given them a game, says Brown. So Brown has a different view about this a little bit. Brown says, we've given them a game. You can see they are a cut above us and they'll mostly likely be getting promoted, says Brown. We go again on Boxing Day. That's a good attitude to have about it. Thank you very much, Brown, for that. I agree. We have given them a game. I would say to you, though, Brown, only the last 15 minutes or so, we were nowhere near that lot for the vast majority of that game. But we will agree to disagree on that point. But I do agree with you with the rest of what you said. We are definitely not in their league. And certainly they will probably get promoted, or at the very best, at the very worst, get to the playoff final. And we do go again on Boxing Day. So, I mean, I do agree with everything else that you said there, Brown. Thank you for your comment there on this situation today. Burnley were better than us, and it just comes down to that. Yes, we played poorly. Yes, we weren't quite good enough. We weren't nowhere near good enough. And yes, Burnley stifled us. But the bottom line is just not good enough against the Burnley side. And we played poorly. And it's one thing to be not as good as Burnley, but it's quite another thing when you're poor, when you're playing a really poor game like we did. We've got Portsmouth next on Boxing Day. That's coming up on Thursday. I do want to thank those of you on X who have been listening. I'll read out more of your comments on YouTube right now. The final score again, for those of you on X, was obviously not a good day for us. Burnley 2, Watford 1. Our run of unbeaten games comes to a close. And listen, if it was going to come to a close, there's no shame in that against Burnley. We played really poorly and lost 2-1. You know, on another day, we could have probably got hammered in a game like this in a horrible conditions that we had to endure. Again, shout out to them fans who traveled all the way up northwest to get to that game and see what they saw. It was not a performance befitting the travel of the loyal Watford faithful, as always. On to Instagram land next. We'll continue on here on YouTube. Thank you for those of you joining on X. The final score was Watford losing the game, Burnley 2, Watford 1. On to Instagram land next. And until Boxing Day, Merry Christmas to all of you on X. You ORNS! Thank you again to those of you who continue on X, excuse me, on YouTube. Look who's not had a Christmas hangover. And we've not even got to Christmas yet. But I do want to thank all of you who are continuing to watch on YouTube. And I do thank you so very much indeed for your time. I'm going to continue on YouTube. And of course, we're going to now add the YouTube chorus with the Instagram chorus, because we are on the air live on both right now. Greetings, everyone on Instagram, live with us today. Hello, Omar here, and welcome to a brand new edition of You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live. It's great to have you aboard. Despite this result today, the final was Burnley 2, Watford 1. Yeah, that is not the scoreline we were hoping for. I had predicted a 2-2 game, and for a while, it looked like that we might be on for that. Watford did try in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the game to make things interesting. It would have been very interesting indeed had we came in and got a 2-2 out of this. I was hoping for it, but it didn't quite happen today. And we are welcoming T. Eastwood has joined us on Instagram. We'll continue to read your comments out on YouTube. I'm Omar, and it's great to have each and every Watford supporter here after a very difficult game for Watford. Watford were really poor today. And I do want to point out something that Brown says ahead of the comments I'm going to read from him and others on the YouTube channel. Francisco Sierralta, that was the other chance that I forgot to mention, where he almost scored an excellent save from Trafford. That was really the only save he really had to make of any consequence. So thank you, Brown, for reminding us of that. But this was a terrible game for Watford. They were poor throughout from back to front on this one. I really thought Watford did not play well. Michael Thorpe has joined us on Instagram. Thank you, Michael. Hello to you. This was a poor performance from Watford. Watford just weren't in this game. Yes, you give that to Burnley. Burnley effectively neutralized Watford, blanketed us throughout the first half, dominated us as well, and also into the second half for the vast majority of the contest. They should have scored early in that second half as well. Burnley just controlled this game from start to finish. Hello there, Joe Larkin, to you. Joe Larkin, you did predict 3-2 Watford. I predicted 2-2 Watford, and neither of us got it right. Of course, I was on for it, though, after bar strike, Joe. It was a close contest there. But look, quite frankly, Burnley deserved to win the game. I don't think any Watford fan watching here now can say that that was a result that Burnley did not deserve or that it was too harsh on us. If anything, we were very fortunate to score. Maybe that was harsh on Burnley that we even got the goal. We did not play well in this game. Watford just were not at it. The goalkeeper was not at it. The distribution was poor. The defending was poor. Both goals were poorly defended. The defense beginning to slacken a bit now. 2 goals today, 1 on Sunday. That if we're going to do anything in the playoff region, we're going to have to be tighter defensively. We have not been tight enough to Burnley today, and we looked really poor defensively at times. Our sets were really off. Our sets, meaning our setups defensively, were off in this game. I could see it from the opening whistle. We weren't quite sharp enough. Other than the first 3 minutes of the game, we didn't do anything in this game until Barr scored. And then, of course, Sierralta just before that getting a good header in that I nicknamed him Young Trafford as opposed to Old Trafford. James Trafford made a really good save on. That's the only save he really had to make. That is the one save he had to make all day. Daniel Batman was not good today. The whole team was not good today. And as a result, we lose our first game in 7. We were unbeaten during that time. The last defeat we had was at Swansea. I predicted that before this game started that it would be a 2-2 draw. So my run of exact predictions comes to an end after the last 2 games, predicting them correctly. Today, that ran out on me by 1 goal. Unfortunately, Watford did not score that second goal that I would have needed to keep boasting and bragging about how I've been on the mark on these predictions, or very darn close to it. But look, the bottom line is we're 4 days from Christmas. I think that's what we can look forward to, those of us who observe and celebrate Christmas. And I know Christmas can be, by the way, a very difficult time for a lot of people. And so if you are one of those people who struggles at Christmas, having a tough time in your life, I do want to tell you this: tough times do not last, but tough people like you do. And so I want to emphasize that. I know this is a difficult time of year for a lot of people. Tough times do not last. Tough people like you do. And you're going to get through this. I want to just say that aside from the football, because we've got to remember that we're all human beings, obviously, and we do go through ups and downs. I know Watford FC and this team has gone through some ups and downs, and today was one of the down moments. But look, away from football, the most important thing is your life and your health and your well-being. And of course, I do say to all of you watching, if you or someone you know is going through some tough times, going through some really tough periods in your life, there is help. There are people who can help you. There are hotlines across the UK and beyond that can help, where people can talk to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, mental health professionals that you might want to get yourself in touch with, or get someone you know who is not doing very well at this point around this very difficult time. Holiday season is always rough. So I want to just step away and say that because it needs to be said. And so I want to just make clear that that is the case. So thank you very much indeed for allowing me to do that, because I think it's important. Now let's get back now to the football, and I'll read your comments out. My prediction was off, says Joe Larkin. Was quite off, hoping for more from Watford today. Yeah, I was too, Joe. Just didn't happen. I thought this was going to be a much more attractive contest than it was. This was not the game that the West Brom game was. I thought that this game was going to resemble the West Brom game, and it just didn't. It just didn't at all, and at all in any shape, way, or form. And so, Joe, yeah, look, we can get these things wrong once in a while. You predicted 3-2, I predicted 2-2, and we were both wrong. But look, Watford just didn't play well. Burnley played very well. Burnley did what Burnley have done, and that's why Burnley are probably going to either be an automatic promotion or they're going to be in the playoff final. I think that's where they're going one way or another. If Sheffield United and Leeds continue to do what they're doing, that's where Burnley are going to be, because I don't see anybody knocking Burnley off in any playoff situation either, and that includes us. We just don't have, I think, the clinical and incisive know-how in critical moments of a match. And you saw that today. There were some balls that just were a bit too long. Ryan Andrews got on the end of one, just missed it, not his fault. There was a ball that was full stretch to Bio, just missed it, not his fault. The ball was just a bit long. That's what the game was today for us. Joe Lark says 2 home games we need to win over Christmas. Yep, we do. We've got the game against Portsmouth on Boxing Day. That game we got to win. That's at the Vic. That's a gimme. We got to win that game. Can't take Portsmouth lightly, but we got to win that game on Thursday night, Boxing Day afternoon. That's a Boxing after. Isn't that Boxing Day afternoon? I think that game is. But Watford cannot afford to mess about, to muck about. Yes, it is an afternoon game. It's a 3:00 kickoff. That one is a really important game now. Thank you, Joe G's, for joining us as well. Hello to you there, Joe GS. Thank you. The bottom line today is that Watford just were not good enough. Here were the results of the other games that really matter. Apart from the loss we had today, it was Cardiff 0, Sheffield United 2, Leeds 4, Oxford 0. Wow, Leeds are flying high, aren't they? Millwall ended Blackburn Rovers' run. Millwall won, Blackburn Rovers 0. That goal must have come very, very late. That was very late. That came in the 96th minute of that game. 96th minute, Ivanovic scoring for Millwall. Wow, massive game. That's a massive win for Millwall. Millwall won, Blackburn Rovers 0. If Watford could have got a point today, they would have they'd still be 7th, because Middlesbrough got a 3-3 draw with Plymouth. Wow. So those are 2 big results there. Plymouth 3, Middlesbrough 3. And Middlesbrough were losing that game. So this result today, when you really think about it, not too costly for Watford, because both Middlesbrough and Blackburn Rovers slipped up as well. Wow, that's a significant result. Those are the results that matter. And Sunderland obviously winning against Norwich 2-1. Sunderland, boy, oh boy. I don't know. So who's going to go up this season? Sheffield United will, and I think Leeds will. But who's going to go up after that? Is it going to be Burnley, or is it going to be Sunderland? Because again, I think Watford will finish 8th. I predicted that before the season began, and it's going to be down to games like this. It's not so much that Watford have trouble, and we obviously do have trouble against the bottom 3 or 4. And strangely enough, I'm going to say something that may be counterintuitive. Watford need to be winning the games against the teams above and around them, not even more so than the teams at the bottom, because these are the teams at the top that you're playing against that you're going to be fighting for a playoff spot against. You're not going to be fighting for a playoff spot against Plymouth. You're not going to be fighting for a playoff spot against Hull. Yes, it would be great, obviously, if we won the game against Hull, if we won the game against Plymouth when we were 2-1 up with 15 seconds left. That would be great as well. I understand that. But those aren't the teams that we're going to be being concerned about come the final month of the season. It's going to be your Burnleys. It's going to be your Middlesbroughs. It's going to be your Sheffield Uniteds and your Sunderlands and your Middlesbroughs, all the rest, and on Leeds, on and on and on. Them teams that we're going to have to be concerned about. Thank you, Gary Costa, for coming in on Instagram. So really, yes, we should win against the bottom teams, but really what we need to be doing is winning against these top teams. Now, at home, no problem. We beat Middlesbrough at home. We beat Sheffield United. We haven't played them yet at home. We beat Middlesbrough at home. Sunderland at home, right? We beat them at home. West Brom at home. We beat Blackburn at home. No problem beating these teams at our place. But when we go away from home, we have got to be better than this. Better than this. We played poorly at Sheffield United. We lost 1-0. We played poorly at Leeds. For the first half, we were terrible. Daniel Batman, awful in that game. We lost that game 2-1. Played much better in the second half of that game. Quadro Bar scored in the second half of that game against Leeds, if memory serves me correctly. Same thing today. Terrible for the most of this game. Quadro Bar scoring in that game today. Lose by the same scoreline we did against Leeds. The goalkeeper poor in both games. You know, there's certain patterns and rhythms that we have, that at least that I, as a Watford supporter, can identify. The kind of game that we play away from home, the rhythm of that game, where we might play very poorly, but have a chance to still be in with a shout. And we were today, despite playing poorly and despite Burnley dominating. Same thing, Leeds. Same thing at Elland Road a few months ago. Played poorly, 2 Daniel Batman mistakes in that game, and played poorly that first half. Then Leeds just dropped off second half. Leeds United just dropped off. And we were much, much better. Bar scored, but we just couldn't get over the line to get that second goal. You know, it's how you start these games away from home that really is the bellwether for whether or not you're going to get anything out of the game. If you don't start well enough away from home, you are going to get punished away from home. And that happened today. And that is why Watford are going to miss out, I think. Now, listen, I don't want to be a doomsayer, but I've told you over and over again, Watford are going to miss out on the playoffs narrowly because of these kinds of issues, particularly away from home. And as it stands, Watford are currently in 4th position. West Bromwich Albion, I think, don't they play later on today? They might well do. No, they play tomorrow. They play tomorrow, I think they do. So West Bromwich Albion have a chance now to jump over us and get into the top 6, perhaps. So it's as you were where Watford are concerned. They're still in 7th on 34. They got the L. Now we need to bounce back now against Portsmouth. And Portsmouth today got a win. And Portsmouth have really improved themselves lately. They are out of the bottom 3. You know, we play better against teams who aren't in the bottom 3 of the table. Oxford, Plymouth, and Cardiff are all in the bottom 3, and we've only beaten one of them, and that would be Oxford. Oxford look like they're heading straight back down. Plymouth, can you believe Plymouth now are rock bottom? Wayne Rooney's job probably on the line, isn't it? If it hasn't already been on the line. Plymouth rock bottom now in the Premier League, you know, in the Championship, rock bottom. And they've lost 4 in a row before today's draw. And they held Middlesbrough to a 3-3 draw. Football is a funny old game. I'm going to read out your comments on YouTube next. I want to thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, YouTubers. I'm going to read your comments out. Matt says, that was a shocking performance. And thank you for your patience on YouTube. I know I've been rabbiting on a whole lot. Not been reading out your comments. I've been very bad on that front. But I'm going to change that right now. I do want to thank you for subscribing to the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel as I move this part of the phone here for those of you watching on Instagram. Thank you. But I want to read out your comments again here. Matt says, that was a shocking performance. Did Backman have his boots on the wrong feet when he was kicking the ball today? Says Matt. Yeah, I think he did. Especially, you know, Matt, what really encompasses the problem with Backman today was he sliced the ball. That last thing he did, slicing the ball into the stands at Turf Moor. And I know the conditions were downright awful. They've played in that before. You know, they've played in them horrible conditions before. But Backman's kicking was terrible today. And what epitomized it, Matt, was that wretched kick at the end of the game. And then he blamed Porteous for a bad throw-in. I don't know why he's blaming Porteous for anything. Porteous did as much as he could do, given the circumstances in this game. Nobody was great. But Porteous at least defended his position as well as he could. And the defense was not great today by any stretch. But Daniel Backman blaming Porteous, that's the leadership issue that I have. You know, that's why. And I know he's the club captain. He's not the on-pitch captain, but he's the club captain. But I'm sorry, you can't be having to go at Porteous when you've had a terrible game. You really have a go at Porteous? And your goalkeeping was awful today, Daniel. Let's be fair. Be fair about that. Thank you, Connor, for joining us. Connor, joining us on Instagram all the way from Antigua. I know, Connor, you and I had a chat earlier in the pre-match, but it's great to see you back. Not the result we wanted, Connor, today, obviously. But listen, Watford, you can say, at least gave it a go the final couple of minutes, as you just pointed out, the final 10 minutes. Honestly, we really didn't deserve to score any goals today, quite frankly. I'll read out your Instagram comments, but I need to get back to YouTubers who I've been leaving here on the side of the road, which is not good. I want to thank you on YouTube for subscribing and watching to spread the word, please, about the You ORNS FC Watford FC YouTube channel. It's great to have you here. My name is Omar, and you can, of course, follow along here on Instagram, and of course here on Instagram rather, and follow here on YouTube as well. Brown says the audio sounds fine to me. Yes, that was from earlier on where we had some issues with my Bluetooth on X. Brown says Francisco almost scored. He certainly did. That was something that Brown pointed out earlier. Jonathan Larkin says this. Thank you, Jonathan John Larkin for coming in. We didn't start trying until the 80th minute, and by that point, the game was far too gone to bring it back. Yeah, that's so true. Larkin, we just did not get this done. We were so far out of this game. Didn't even deserve the goal, quite frankly. But Barr had a go at it, and he smashed the ball into the back of the net. So now for 3 games in a row, either Vata or Barr has made an impact in the game, either by assists or scoring. So Tom Cleverley has got to keep playing them too. I know he's looked at the back four today and said, oh, I've got to make a change. And maybe there was a formation change that was needed, and Vata ended up coming off the pitch to make Sierralta your back 3. But the bottom line is that even though Vata didn't really have it today, Barr did, and he scored. And you got to keep that continuity going. And I hope that Vata and Barr continue to start these games, even with what happened today. You've got to keep going with these young guys. You've got to break an infusion of energy in. Larousse did not have it today. Look, none of these players did, but the bottom line is that you keep starting VAR and Bat. I keep mixing their names up. Vata and Barr. You've got to keep starting the two of them. And I think we really missed Lose today. I would have liked to see Tom Ince come in this game as well. He didn't get a look in today. I guess Klebs kept him off. He was a bench player. He was able to play the game. I don't know why he wasn't utilized. I think this game needed a more veteran presence because I thought Sissoko was really poor today. As a veteran, he's a veteran player. I thought Sissoko was awful today. Again, he's had some good games. He's had a lot of not so good games, though, and this was one of the not so good. You put this in the not so good column. I really thought that Sissoko was poor today. Just not the same player that he was the first 5 games of the season. And let's be really honest about that. And Richard Lees, thank you, Richard, for your comment here as well. Thank you, Johnny Larkin for doing that as well. Might be Joe Larkin actually. Sorry, Joe, if I'm getting you wrong there. Richard Lees, hello, Richard. Thank you for your comment. And Richard says this: evening, Omar. Disappointing result, as though Burnley, strong team, struggled to break them down in difficult conditions. Yeah, that about sums it up there, Richard. We did not break down Burnley at all in this game. Their defensive positions were very good. They really did clutter the field with defenders. They defended their box very, very well. They restricted Watford into areas and isolated us very well. What I think Burnley did really well is isolate us into pockets of the pitch, and they did not allow at all for us to get an expansive footballing game going. Georgie was neutralized as well. They were able to clog up the middle. The midfield was a big factor. We were absolutely pulverized in midfield, and that's one of the biggest reasons, Richard, why Watford did not get any joy today, because that midfield got overrun. We just did not have the balance of the midfield right. And again, I think that has a lot to do with Lose's absence as much as it does really with the way Burnley played us. They played to neutralize Georgie. And so when you neutralize a direct attack up the middle, you can hold Watford into really pocket areas. You can have Watford go down the channels. Burnley were coming at us down the channels with 2 and 3 defenders to meet whatever Barr was doing. Barr, even though he was effective in points today and he scored, did not have that cutback going because they had two defenders on him. And so what he did was he either lost the ball and then won it back, or the ball was run out of the pitch. The ball went out for a goal kick because Burnley just flooded that side. So they were able to clog up the midfield, overrun us in mid, and then force us down the channels, where then they would bring 2 and 3 defenders at us. And so we could not really penetrate the way we usually do. And that's why that was so ineffective today, is because Burnley just rushed defenders at him, rushed defenders at us going down the channels. We had no chance today. Burnley had an excellent game plan and it worked. Scott Parker, who's done a good job there, since Vincent Kompany has now moved on to greener pastures in Germany with Germany, because that's a horrible thing that happened in Germany last night as well. But ever since Vincent Kompany went off to Bayern Munich, Scott Parker's come in and done a good job. Parker's been everywhere. Parker managed in Germany too for a short while. If people forget that, it was literally about 5 minutes. But Parker, who's been at places like Bournemouth and Fulham, has been at places like that, has been at Tottenham as a player, and may have even been a player manager there. No, he wasn't a player manager at Spurs, but Scott Parker played at Spurs. He managed at Fulham, managed at Bournemouth, managed in Germany, managing now at Burnley. He's doing a good job. It's a good job there from him. And they've really locked down defensively. They've really established themselves. No one's conceded as fewer goals as them. But anyway, I'm going to read out more of your comments here. Can't understand on you Instagram here, says Gary Costa. Can't understand, says Gary, why we've dropped Morris. Well, Morris has not been great. I thought Morris was good in the game against West Brom when he started that game, Gary. But overall this season, James Morris to me has looked overmatched in his position. When he's been in that back three, he's not been great. When he's been in the back four, he's not been terrific. But I will say this, the game against West Brom, he was good in. He was good in that game. And I think maybe what has happened here, Gary, is probably one of two things. One, I think he wanted to give the back four another tryout, and he wanted to give another player a spot there, i.e. Larousse. Wanted to give him a go there. And also, I think, Gary, another reason why Morris got dropped probably is because you got 5 days. I always say this, not 5 days and 15 games, because that would be impossible. 5 games in 15 days. I think that's the other reason, Gary, on Instagram, why you had Morris drop today. There's a game Thursday. Is Morris probably going to start that game on the back of this performance from Larousse? I would say yes. So James Morris is probably going to come into these games, Gary, to start. If you're a Morris fan or whomever, to those of you who are big James Morris fans or who like his style of play, you're probably going to get to see him on Boxing Day at 3 p.m. So I think that's my bet. I will bet you, I'm not going to bet any money on this, but I will bet you a gentleman's bet, let's put it that way, that Kleb starts Morris on Boxing Day. That's my prediction, Gary. And you do with that what you will. Thank you, Gary, for your comment on Instagram. Connor from Antigua, thank you for coming in, Connor, all the way from Antigua. Yet again, another first half we conceded within 10 minutes. Yeah. And I misread your comment earlier. That's so true. Connor, we did this again. And we did this in all these games we lost. Notice these games that we lost against the teams above us, away from home, Connor. We've given up goals in the first 10 minutes. The game against Sheffield United at Bramall Lane, September 1st of this year, gave up a goal in the first 4 minutes of the game. It was the only goal of the game. Backman made a mistake with the defense, and that was the only goal of the game, and that was in the 4th minute of that game. Memory, so you can go look this up. I'm doing this off the top of my head. Leeds, same thing. 2 goals in the first 10 minutes or so of the game. Daniel Backman made 2 errors, 2 goals, done and dusted. That was in the first 10 minutes or so of the game. You can go look them stats up and tell me if I'm wrong. And then the same thing again today. 9th minute of the game, first 10 minutes. Jaden Anthony gets a goal. I mean, Connor, you're absolutely right. Yet another game. And all of these games that we're conceding in the first 10 minutes in is against the teams that we are expected to be seeing in terms of contention for a playoff spot. Can't get to the playoffs like that. This is why I predicted before, back in July, I predicted we finish 8th, when most of us thought that we would be struggling to stay in the division. We are having a problem away from home, and it's a shame that we are, because if we could get points away from home, if we could pick up wins where we were drawing and pick up draws where we were losing, we would be right up in automatic land right now, right up there. Thank you for the comment, Connor. I'm going to continue to read out your comments on Instagram and on YouTube. Continue to stay tuned. Continue to follow on Instagram and on YouTube at You ORNS WFC on both. Subscribe to the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel. Like the videos as well. I'm going to read all your comments out on both your channels. Michael Thorpe, hello, Michael, to you. Hello and welcome, I should say as well. Michael says, we've got to get some new players in January. The only thing, Michael, is who do you have in mind? Or at least which positions on the pitch do you have in mind, Michael, for that? We do need new players. I agree. We probably need about 2 more new players. Now, to be fair, Kevin has had some injury difficulties. TDB has had a nightmare with his knee. And of course, we only just got back Angelo Ogbonna. So there's no Rajovic. He's out on loan, even though he trained with us this week. He's out on loan. He'll continue to train with Watford, but he's not going to be able to do anything for Watford until after the season is over. He's got a season-long loan at Brøndby back in Denmark. So Rajovic is not an option. Jefferson, he's not done it for us. He's just not been a good fit. He's had some difficulties off the pitch. He's had some injuries, crisis of confidence. It's just not been a good time for Daniel Jefferson. And it's just going to be one of those, unfortunately, that has not worked so far. Will it work? Will it work? I don't know. I want to be optimistic for Daniel Jefferson, and I do have faith in him. But it's been a struggle for him since he's come to Watford for varying reasons, some of which I am unaware of. But I just want to say that if we're going to get new players, and I appreciate the comment, Michael, I'm not criticizing you. I'm just putting this out there for you and everyone watching. If we're going to get new players in January, who would you like to see? And you don't have to name names. But just which positions? Obviously, striker's probably going to be one of them. I think that's pretty obvious. But where else on the field do we need? Would you say, Michael, or anyone else? Michael adds, we've got to win at home and draw away. Yep, Michael, that I agree with you on 100%. We have got to start getting draws away from home much more often. We only have 2 of them this season, if I can remember. Maybe 2, Hull and Plymouth. Those are the only 2 draws we've had away from home. I can't think of any other draws we've had away from home this season. The rest have been defeats, except for the 2 games at Sheffield United and Millwall. That's been it. Those are the only games in which we picked up points. We've only picked up points in 4 away games this season. That is not good enough. That is not good enough. As Sam points out as well, Sam J1020 on Instagram says, away form, shocking. Yes, Sam, 100%. This away form is the reason why we're not going to get there for the playoffs. I know what fans are thinking I'm a doomsayer saying that. Before the season began, I said 8th place for us. And this is the reason why we're going to finish 8th or just outside the top 6, because we're just not good enough away from home. Burnley showed you how good they are today. And I don't even think Burnley were at their very best today either, quite frankly. They just played the game and managed the game so much better than I was actually impressed with that, by the way. Burnley managed this game so very well in all departments. And even when they conceded again, they still managed the game very, very well. We were very naive out there at times, giving the ball away on the edge of our box. Sissoko, what were you doing today? Giving the ball away right on the edge of the box. I don't know. You're a veteran footballer, man. I don't know what you're doing. Daniel Batman, that was a disgrace today. With that kicking was poor, slicing the kick at the end of the game into the stands. And then he's shouting and having to go at Porteous. Again, as I said earlier, Ryan Porteous was not your problem there, Daniel. It's not your problem. Not your problem. So we'll just leave that at that. Sam, thank you for your comment. Sam also says we gave him chances and he doesn't provide. That is, I think you're talking about Mr. Jefferson. I think you're talking about him. I'm pretty confident that you are, Sam. Thank you for the comment. Watford Serbia joins us all the way from Serbia. Thank you, Watford Serbia. I'm going to read out your comments now on YouTube. Lots of them to come here now. Richard Lee's a comment I've read out. Omar, for me, says Matt, the way we played, it almost looked like that they was almost ready for their Thanksgiving, for their Christmas turkey. Yeah, Let me read that comment out again from Matt. Matt, thank you as a regular on YouTube. Really appreciate your comments. Omar, for me, the way we played, it almost looked like they was almost all ready for their Christmas turkey. Yeah, Matt, they were. I think they had an eye on that Christmas turkey. I'm going to be off to get my Christmas turkey after this after this post match. It's been raining out here though as well. Not as bad as Turf Moor, I must say, but there has been rain here. It is the rain season here in San Francisco right now, so we're going to get some rain here and there. But bottom line is, winter has begun. I think winter officially began today. If not, maybe it'll come up in the next day or two. But yeah, I have a feeling that you're right on that one, Matt. Think they're probably looking ahead to that Christmas turkey and mince and all the rest of it. I think then eggnog and all the rest. I think they're looking at that now. I think then Watford players, I think one or two of them had their eye on it, because I think you can't play as poorly as that and not have something in the back of your mind about Christmas. Their next game is the day after Christmas. So we'll really see, Matt, if the proof is in that pudding that you're talking about and that eggnog and the mince and the Christmas turkey and all the rest of it. We'll see if Watford have had too much trimmings on Christmas Day when we see what happens on Boxing Day at the Vic. Let me read out the rest of your comments on YouTube. Then I'll go back to you on Instagram with your comments as well. Brown says more game time for Ngake, which is a plus. Yep, that is a positive. Ngake didn't harm himself today. I thought he was good. Had a shot as well that almost caught out Old Trafford, or Young Trafford, James Trafford, whichever you prefer. And then Brown says, I like Morris. Seems a top lad, but if I'm being honest, he's more rotation material than to be an actual first team starter. Shows you how paper thin our squad is. That is a good comment. That's going to be the comment of the game. The Brown Electrons there on the YouTube with the YOU ORNS Watford FC fan comment of the game. He says this, I like Morris, seems like a top lad, but if I'm being honest, he's more rotation material than to be an actual first team starter. Shows you how paper thin our squad is. That is the YOU ORNS Watford FC fan comment of the game. Thank you, Brown Electrons on YouTube, for providing it. That really is a great comment from Brown, because he's really summed up exactly what Watford are. Our squad is thin. We have a lot of injuries. Let's make no mistake about that. And James Morris is, and to the point that the commenter on Instagram was making earlier, I think it was Joe or somebody who said, Joe G or someone else who said, Robert Costa, I think, said this. Why isn't Morris starting? Well, that's the reason. And I provided the reasons as well. And I think Brown's provided the reasons as well with the comment he made. You know, he is not a starter for me. He is much more a rotation player. And the only reason why I think, Morris has had some good moments. Don't get me wrong. I think Morris was good on a Sunday against West Brom, but he doesn't really distinguish himself throughout most of these games. You look at these games, whether Watford win, lose, or draw, in these games, and you ask, well, where was James Morris? You didn't really notice him on the pitch. And that's really why, to Robert Costa, or whoever it was, Sam Costa, I forget your first name, I'm sorry, who made that comment earlier, Gary Costa, I think. I'm sorry, Gary. I think you made this comment earlier, and that's why, Gary, he's not getting the starts regularly. Again, as I said earlier, the other reason he's not getting the starts regularly, particularly now, today, is obviously because there's 5 games in 15 days, and he wants to rotate. And I think Brown's correct. Brown, I think you're absolutely right. He's not a starter in this. Not for me, he's not. But I just want to get your gander on James Morris as well. Brown's weighed in on that. Gary Costa has weighed in on that. What do you say, fellow Watford supporters? Do you think James Morris is a regular first-team starter? Should he be a regular first-team starter ahead of the likes of a Festi, ahead of the likes of a Larousse? I know I don't think so. I think I've just made my point very clear. Brown's made his point very clear. Michael Thorpe asks, how many points in the next 2 games? Well, we got the next games against Portsmouth. For me, that should be 3 points for us. Portsmouth have been better of late, but I think Watford should get 3 points there. And then the next game after that, isn't that the game against Queen's Park Rangers, or is it Cardiff? I think it's Cardiff, isn't it? Might be Cardiff next. Just trying to look and see what it is, who is next for us. But it's definitely Portsmouth next, and then I do think it is Cardiff for us. Let me have a quick gander at that. while I'm here to look at it. We do play Cardiff next. Both of these games are at home, as was pointed out earlier. We need to get 6 points there, obviously, there, Michael. I think we should get 6 points. I think we will get 6 points, but I don't think those games are going to be easy. Two teams who are in the bottom end of the table. We don't do well against bottom end teams, but I do think that we will get 6 points here in these next two games, and those will be very key for us. So 6 for me, Michael. That's my prediction. Liam, hello to you. And Jack Boddington from Down Under, hello to you. G'day, Omar. Disappointing 70 minutes, says Jack Boddington on Instagram. We can take positives, though, such as cleverly changing the tactics to improve us. Yeah, that is a good comment, Jack. Thank you from Down Under. I know it's probably late where you are. You're in the middle of the night now, aren't you? It's probably like 2 o'clock in the morning, nearly 3 o'clock in the morning, Jack. Wow. That's, I'm sorry, 3 o'clock in the, 3 o'clock in the morning now, Jack, for you, isn't it? Very close to it. So, Jack, thank you, and good day to you. Good morning, and Merry Christmas as well, as we come up toward Christmas time, just 4 days away from it. This was a very disappointing performance for Watford, and I would say, yeah, I'd say 80 minutes up until, of course, bar in the 80th minute. I agree with you, Jack. This was a very poor Watford performance. And it was no accident. The last really dire performance was the one at Swansea, where we last lost before today. So there we go. I do agree with you on the positives. Cleverly changing the lineup again was good. He recognized that he couldn't go with that back four. It could only go so far. He subbed. I think the subs were not bad. It's just that they didn't do enough for us. And if he had brought them on a little bit earlier, who knows? Yeah, 2 a.m. So I was off by an hour, 2 a.m. in Australia right now. Thank you, Jack, on Instagram. Unfortunate that we got going so early. Yeah, the thing is, you know what I look at that as, Jack? And those of you watching on YouTube, with Watford, the first 3 minutes of the game, I think that was all nervous energy. I don't mean to mock the side that I love so dearly, the team I love dearly, but I thought that the first 3 minutes of the game, we just got this nervous energy. We got it out of our system. After 3 minutes, it was over. It was over. Then Burnley just took over the rest of the game and said, thank you very much. That, for me, is what happened today. I don't want to trivialize the performance. It was poor. But the first 3 minutes, we were all over the place in a good way. And then nothing else except the 80th minute, and did something there, obviously, with the goal. Pressed well the first 3 minutes, attacked the spaces well the first 3 minutes, put a little bit of pressure on the goalkeeper the first 3 minutes. But after that, gone. And that's it. That's really it there, Jack. And nothing more. And I know it's nearly 2 a.m. in Australia on a Sunday morning. It is now in the UK close to 6 p.m. on a Saturday evening. We'll go for about 10 more minutes here while I read out your comments, 10 or 15 more minutes. It is raining here in San Francisco, California. I think it's very light rain at the moment. But it is raining nonetheless, but I'm sure not as badly as at Turf Moor. Boy, that rain was horrible. I want to again shout out to the Watford faithful. That was about 300-400 of you, maybe a bit more that went up there, maybe a bit less, to come up to the Northwest on a horrible day. And I know some of you probably stayed at a hotel overnight or something in Burnley, but to come up to the Northwest when it was absolutely dreadful weather. Turf Moor is never the most romantic place to visit. I mean, the weather is awful there mostly. When it's sunny, it's nice. But when it's not sunny, it's not nice. And the Northwest, of course, with Manchester in the area, Lancashire in general, not great weather-wise. Liverpool gets the rain as well. But Manchester gets it really badly, and Burnley does a little bit further up there as well. Gets it really badly in the Northwest, in Lancashire. The rain just teams down. But the bottom line is that, look, kudos to all the Watford supporters who actually traveled up there on the coach, made the most of it, and despite a very poor Watford performance and some poor weather conditions. But let me read out a couple of these. Can we stay up in the top 10 and have a great Christmas, everyone, says Michael Thorpe. Thank you, Michael, and thank you for wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. Yeah, I think we can. We will, despite the performances away. The reason why is because right now the home form continues to be what it is. So we will stay in the top 10. I just think we are not going to get to the playoffs. And I did think eighth before the season began, eighth place, definitely in the top 10, definitely eighth, ninth, or 10th. And I ended up settling on eighth before the season began. And so I think, Michael, that's what's going to happen. The answer is yes, but we will not make the playoffs, unfortunately. We'll have to build on this. And I want to be wrong about that. I want us to make the playoffs and do well. But every season has a lesson to it. And we're beginning, and we've seen so far as we edge toward the halfway point of our season where the lessons are. We're beginning to see them. The question becomes, we see the lesson in front of us. Can we actually learn from it? That is the thing that we hope to get an answer for. So far, the answer has been no. We have not learned from the lesson that we see in front of us. So either we need to be better teachers, better learners, or all the above. We just need to teach ourselves better what to do on the pitch in these situations because our discipline lacked today as well. Jack Boddington says, speaking of discipline, we dropped our heads after the goal too, to be fair. I agree, Jack. We did. After the first goal, we dropped our heads. Second goal, I thought, yeah, we still, we improved a little bit after the second goal. And the substitutions helped bring that about, but we just never really got close to Burnley, did we? The 2-1 score line does not reflect the gulf in class between the two sides. And as I said earlier, it's one thing for us as a side to play against Burnley, give a good acquittal of ourselves and still lose. But it's quite another when you play Burnley, who are good as they are, and then make stray passes and then boot the ball downfield to no one in particular, and then give the ball away in dangerous areas of the pitch, and then foul someone on the edge of the box. That's quite another story. And so this 2-1 scoreline does not reflect the gulf between Burnley and us. It doesn't reflect the gulf between third place and seventh, because it could have been as wide as the Tower Bridge. It could have been as wide as the London Bridge. It could have been as wide as the Grand Canyon, as the Golden Gate Bridge, as tall as the Eiffel Tower. You get the point I'm making here. It's just not good enough. And you can't play like this and expect to get into the playoffs away from home. You just can't. Because when you have these playoff rounds, if you get into the playoffs, you have an away leg to play. And you better do well in that away leg. But Watford struggle in these away games. Think about the championship, Jack Boddington said. The thing about the championship is that it's difficult to make a playoff run 2 or 3 years in a row, says Jack. Reminds me of college football or basketball. Teams finding it hard to compete after players go. Yeah, I mean, I see the analogy you're making, Jack. And there is something to be said about what you've said about that. I would say that the only difference here is that Watford, in their system, their players are much more of a nucleus than a lot of these players in basketball. I mean, though I know that when you're talking about the college game, it is probably a better analogy that you are indeed making. But I think that for Watford, the nucleus is there. I just think that with college football and basketball, I think there's a better chance to run anew than there is in the championship. The competition in the championship is stronger, I think, game in and game out than the football is in college. I think any given Saturday in college football here in the United States, at least, you can get an upset as you can in the championship. But those positions, to me, don't change as much. It's tougher. It's tougher. I mean, it's a good point that you make, though, about teams finding it harder to compete. I do think that that's true. But if you look at Burnley, they've had players leave. They've had a load of players leave. And yet, look at them. Look at what they're doing. Look at from where they were in the Premier League to where they are now. The season later, they have lost players. They've had injured players. They've had players leave. But they have managed, with a new manager, no less, they've managed to pick things up. I feel like 4 or 5 teams in the championship have such a skill gap between the rest of the pack. I agree with you, Jack, 100%. And by the way, you know what happened in the NBA Cup final, don't you now? I got that wrong. That's one thing I got wrong as well. the NBA Cup final. So we will say less about that than we have to, perhaps. I did say Milwaukee would be a problem, would be tough, but I thought that OKC would get through on that. But I agree with you on the championship, Jack. The skill set is a golfing class. Obviously, you've got your Sheffield Uniteds, you've got your Leeds Uniteds, your Burnleys, and you've got your Sunderlands. And then you've got the rest. That's really what it is. Yeah, let's not bring that up, says Jack. Yeah, we'll move away from the NBA stuff. Although today, by the way, is World Basketball Day. If you are an NBA fan or any basketball fan, whether it's FIBA, whether it's all the European stuff or the African continent basketball, whatever basketball you're into, it is World Basketball Day today. World Basketball Day. So I'll talk about that, but nothing else, Jack Boddington. We won't talk about anything else where that NBA Cup is concerned. Although the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game is here in San Francisco come February. So I'll see if I can try and get to that. That would be great to go to. Not far away from here, actually, for the Golden State Warriors. We'll be hosting that one in February after the Super Bowl or maybe before it. So a lot going on as far as that is concerned. Let me read out the rest of your comments on YouTube. I'm sorry for neglecting you there. Omar, would you cancel the Jefferson loan, says Brown, and try to get another striker in? I think we've got to cut our losses with this one. Yeah, I think so. I think if Watford can do that, they should. It's been a very tough go for Jefferson. I have an immense amount of empathy and sympathy for him and with him because there were some things, I think, off the pitch, apparently, that were going on for him. And I didn't know he was from Canada originally. He's a Canadian player. Although we had Kone in as a Canadian player, and he fit in just fine. We've had JJJ from the USA, Jay Demerit as a Watford player from the United States as well. He fit in just fine and was a really good captain for us and was a really good player for us, right? Yeah, there could be something to that, as I wish Jack Boddington a Merry Christmas as well. Got to get to bed now, Omar. Have a Merry Christmas. Thank you for staying up so late. It's just after 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning in Australia. Thank you, Jack Boddington from down under. Sleep tight and Merry Christmas to you, Jack. Don't have too many nightmares, please, about this Burnley-Watford game. if you can avoid them, please do. And enjoy your Christmas turkey out there down under as well. Stay safe as well. Stay safe. And I will see you soon on Boxing Day. Thank you, Jack, for that. Likewise, stay safe. See you on the 26th on Boxing Day. By the way, I know it's too late for you, but Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk should be getting ready to fight soon, if not already. So keep that in mind as well for you boxing fans out there. They will do their rematch coming up shortly in Saudi Arabia, if it's not already taking place. So I'll have to get myself going in the next 5 minutes, because I think that by the way, there are 5 boxing matches before it. So we'll see if you can watch that live. I'm going to watch that live in the next few minutes. So we'll stick around here for 5 more minutes. Cheers there, Jack. See you soon, mate. Absolutely, Jack. Take care of yourself. Merry Christmas to you, Jack, and to all of you watching on Instagram, and have a good Christmas. Enjoy that Christmas turkey as well. Thank you very much, Jack. Have a good night. Take care of yourself. As we go on here, we continue on both Instagram and on YouTube. As look, we're doing a post-mortem here on Burnley 2, Watford 1. It has been a poor game for Watford. I think Watford will probably forget this one, but I want to come back to what Brown asked. Would you cancel the Jefferson loan? Would you cancel the Jebs loan? Yeah, I would. It's been a difficult time for him. As I said, he's had a difficult time of it. He's had injuries. He's had a crisis of confidence. It's been difficult for him to adjust and fit in. Yeah, sometimes it happens to players, Brown. Sometimes they just don't fit in. It's not because they're bad people or anything like that. I don't think that anybody would suggest that. I know you're not, and I'm not. It's not that they're bad people. We're all human beings, and sometimes there's some good fits for us as human beings, and sometimes there's some bad fits for us as human beings. And that applies across, as you know, and anyone watching knows, across all walks of life. Sometimes there's just some things that we are not good at, or we're not good fitting into. Some people are better fits with us than others, and some people are not so much. You know, it just happens. That's the way life is. And I think that's applied to Daniel Jefferson. Jebs, he was very good with Sunderland. He was decent with Sheffield United. Not so much at Watford. You know, it just happens that way. And you would have thought that an environment like the one at Vicarage Road, would actually be conducive to him. I would have thought that. Very friendly, family-oriented environment. People are decent at Watford for the most part, very, very good. And really, all the folks at Watford are good. And I mean, I'm not trying to say that as any kind of blatant general statement, but they are the people. And you might disagree sometimes with some of the people in the front office, but they're decent human beings. I don't think they're nasty people. And the teammates that Daniel Jefferson has, they're good people. The chemistry is much better at the club now in the first team than it was, say, 2 or 3 seasons ago. When we had people all over the place doing their own thing and being very selfish. There's a cohesion about this team. You can see it. You can see the way they celebrate together. You can see the way they play together. They didn't play together well today, but I think that it's just one of them where Daniel Jefferson just so far has not panned out. I've been willing to be very patient with Jebs Brown. I've been very willing to do that, but the fans at large are not going to be so patient as I am. I mean, I don't mean to make myself out to be this, but the point is that some people are more patient than others, and I'm not the only fan of Watford Football Club. And that would not be a good thing anyway, for to be the only fan of this club. There's millions of Watford fans across the world, and millions of us are going to have very different opinions about Daniel Jefferson or another Daniel Backman. We're going to have very different opinions. Many of us are on the same page, though, on both Daniels, right? And in this case, Daniel Jefferson's case, he probably does need to move along. And I would be sad for that, but he has to, because obviously it's a pretty rough situation right now for him. I'm willing to give him another month, but again, we need to score goals. And we scored one today from a forward player. We scored two from a forward player, a striker, who really isn't the prototypical number 9 in bio on Sunday. But we don't get goals from anywhere else. Georgie's scored but once. Kayembe has scored 5 goals. He hasn't scored any in the last, maybe a month now since he last scored. Maybe for Kayembe. We're not getting enough goals, and we're not getting enough goals from our frontline players. And so that's what happens. Bottom line, just not good enough. And maybe Jebs needs to move on. Sad to say it, but you got to know when to say when. And we need to get someone else. I just don't know who. It's not going to be Rajovic because he's still on loan. It's hard in January, though, Brown. It's very hard to get good players coming in January. You got to get some players and hope that lightning catches in a bottle with them. We got that a couple of seasons or 2 or 3 seasons ago in the Premier League when we had Samir. Remember when Samir came in the back line? Was very, very good. But, again, you don't. And also our left back there who ended up being our player of the season. Forget his name now all of a sudden. Begins with an H, first name. Ended up getting player of the season for half a season at Watford in the Premier League when we got relegated. I forget his name now. But anyway, that's what you're going to get. Those were both January deals, right? And you've just got to hope you can catch lightning in the bottle, Brown. And so hopefully we'll get somebody of consequence in January. But January is really, really tough to get some good players in, Yeah, Camera, thank you. Yep, Camera. Forget his first name. Begins with an H, though. H Camera, whatever his first name is. Good Lord, I can't. But I'm doing this all off the top of my head, so you got to give me, allow me that. Hassan, I don't know. Camera, yeah. He was your Graham Taylor player of the season when he came in that season, played half a season, and was just exceptional. We have to hope in Hassan. Thank you. Yeah, I did get it. So I did get his first name correct. Hassan Camera. Yep. Thank you, Brown. I knew I was on the right track, and I knew I got it. Hassan. So I did get that correct. Thank you, Brown, for that. Doing that off the top of my head is not easy. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't. Thank you for that as well, to confirm that I was right on his first name. Hassan Camera got that player of the season. He was decent for us, as you say, Brown. He was decent for us, and that's the kind of player that you're going to have to hope you get. If you're getting players in, you're going to have to hope that you get players like that who catch a fire and then set the tone for the second half of the season. So yeah, I would say Brown, that loan needs to be cancelled for Jebs. But who are we bringing in? I don't know. I really don't know. I agree with Brown, says Matt, about Morris, because whenever he starts, by then, end of the game, I always forget he was playing or was even in the starting lineup. Matt, thank you for that. Yeah, Matt, I agree. I know that was from quite a bit of time ago because I didn't read your comment out earlier. I apologize. But yeah, that's why Brown said that, and certainly that's why that was the comment of the game. You Orn's comment of the match from a Watford fan with what Brown said earlier, because Morris is not, as I said earlier as well, Morris does not distinguish himself. You forget that he's on the pitch, win, lose, or draw, as I said earlier. You forget that he even played the game, and that usually doesn't bode well, right? I mean, some players can be so effective that you actually don't notice them because they're doing their job so well, defending, for example, perhaps. But not in Morris's case. Morris is a player where you would ask yourself, how much better or worse are Watford without him in the lineup? And I think his plus minus rating, I don't think he brings very much on the plus side to Watford. And if he's not on the pitch, you don't miss him. And Watford don't suffer without James Morris. Yes, they didn't defend well today, but was that because James Morris was not in the lineup? Not because of that, you know. James Morris, to me, while he might be a decent person, I'm sure he is. He talked earlier in the week about what Paul Robinson has done to improve the game defensively. Harsh to say, but I've got to be honest. I just don't think James Morris as a starter really makes Watford that much better a team. If you start Festi Ebiseli in front of him, if you start Larousse in front of him, yeah, I think that looks a bit better for us. Even though Larousse didn't light things up today, the whole team didn't. Yeah, Brown, I think you're right, and then Matt, I think you're right as well. Matt, you're the one that made the point. Yep, it's easy to forget him. It's easy to forget a James Morris in the lineup because he's just not, to me, very effectual going in this lineup. So a couple more minutes to go here. Come on, Fury, says Brown. Yep, good luck to Tyson Fury. He needs to get some revenge there. The only loss of his career was suffered literally 6 or 7 months ago when he fought Usyk, and that was also in Saudi Arabia. Both of these contests taking place in Saudi Arabia. It was a direct rematch clause in the contract, and that's why you're seeing them again so soon. I think Fury's going to pull it out the fire this time around. Usyk is a very tough situation. Usyk has already beaten Anthony Joshua twice. He has been, Usyk deserves to have all 3 belts that he has, and so not a surprise there. But it will be a very interesting contest tonight. That should be coming up in the next, I don't know when. Can't be very long from now, I think. But anyway, 5 more minutes, and then we will be saying goodbye here on You Orn's Extra on Instagram Live and also on YouTube. I'm sorry, here's Brown. We need a Haidar Helguson type player. Good in the air, strong links up play, team player. Yep, I think so. Helguson was a warrior. He played both ends of the pitch. He had good aerial ability, and he held up the ball. He held the ball very well for us, and he's a good passer. And he does. Who else does that too, or did that pretty well? Although not as physical as Haidar Helguson back in the day. Matty Vidra. He held up the ball fairly well. He was a good link-up player, not as strong or as physical, but he definitely was a good passer and was good in link-up game play as well. That is the type of player, Haidar Helguson or a Matej Vidra. Them kind of players who are good link-up players, good pace, good fluidity to the game, picked out a good pass, were good team players for the most part. I think Helguson more so than Vidra, but Vidra did well with that. Unselfish, clinical players. Them players were clinical for us in their heyday when Vidra played the first. Remember, he did a second stint for us that wasn't quite as good, did Vidra. But first time around, he was real gravy, as was Helguson, was terrific in his day. Back in the 1990s, mate, in the 2000s, I think it was. Helguson was really, really good. Oh, boy. Haidar Helguson was the Icelandic wizard. He was tremendous for us. That's a good shout there. Thank you very much for that, Brown. Here's what Matt says. I didn't like when Backman was passing the ball out and we lost the ball so close to the box. He keeps shouting at the player like it was their fault. Most of the time, it was because of his bad pass. Thank you for that, Matt. Yep, I have said the same thing earlier. Daniel Batman today, I thought was poor for the first time in quite some time, because I thought that he was, over the last few weeks, gaining a lot of momentum and keeping his place. But today, he did not do himself any favors. I thought he was poor. I thought his antics, shouting at the players, shouting at Porteous at the end there, I didn't think that was any good. There is a time where you need to shout at your back four or your back three, shout at your players. You need to shout at them as a goalkeeper. And Backman's done that a lot of times when it certainly needed to be done. I didn't think it was necessary to do that, though, with Porteous. Porteous played as well as he could under the circumstances. Nobody was great today. But I'm sorry, when you slice the ball into row Z at Turf Moor when the conditions are as they are, and then you're having to go at your defender, not a good look. Not a good look whatsoever from Daniel Batman today. And look, the team did not have a good look. It's not just Daniel Batman, it's the whole lot of them. Today were awful. Bar had a shot, Sierrata had a go, and Vata had a go. That was it. That was really a game. And that was all she wrote. Yep, he did score a good goal. Brown's talking about Hassan Kamara, who scored a very good goal against Manchester City. That was a 5-1 loss on a Saturday afternoon. Can you guess what the kit was? I know what the answer is to this. We're not having a quiz, but to anyone watching this now, can you guess what kit, what color the kit was that Watford were wearing on that day? Don't look it up. If you can tell me what the color of the kit was that Watford played that day in that Hassan Kamara scored that goal in a 5-1 defeat, I'll give you 10 seconds. I'll give you more time than usual, but don't look it up. 9 seconds, 8 seconds, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. No, it was not white. 1, 0. It was green for the Christmas season. Unbelievable. Yes, they played in the green kit. Gosh, I should have worn that kit for the post-match. I'll do that. Actually, I'll wear that. I'll wear the kit that they were. I'll wear the jersey, the top, the shirt that they were wearing on that day for the You ORNS 10-minute take, which I'm going to do in a few minutes' time before we get to Fury against Usyk Part 2. Hassan Kamara on the Watford side that day. It was a Saturday after. I forgot what month it was. It might have been September or October. It was a 5-1 City win at the Etihad. We wore our green kit that day. I'll wear the top of that kit that we wore in the You ORNS 10-minute take that I will record shortly. Thank you very much, Brown, for trying at it. It was the green kit, and it was weird because you had the pitch being green, obviously, and the sky blues of City. It was a weird color combination between the two teams, and then the pitch kind of made it. It was very strange. That green, and I actually like that Christmas green kit. A lot of Watford fans did not like that kit. Some of us did. I was one of the few who seemed to really like it. I actually will wear that top, that jersey for that kit coming up in the You ORNS 10-minute take coming up next. Well, that's been it. I think I've exhausted everything out of this game. Burnley 2, Watford 1 was the final score. Thank you very much, everyone in Instagram land, on You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live. Thank you for watching. Thank you, everyone in YouTube land. You ORNS WFC for the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your comments and for watching this as well. And thank you as well on You ORNS WFC on Instagram. And to those you earlier on X at You ORNS WFC, like and subscribe. And also the podcast, the most recent edition was this past Thursday, where I did a podcast, the You ORNS Watford FC podcast, which you can find on, I almost said YouTube, on I should put it on YouTube actually, on Spotify and on Apple. I talked about Watford versus West Brom, Hull versus Watford. I also talked about a preview of Burnley versus Watford, and I predicted that Watford would score twice. They only scored once. I predicted the 2-2 scoreline, I think, in that podcast as well, if I remember correctly, from a couple of days ago. And I just talked about Renee Hector, the head coach of the Golden Girls, the Watford women. She's done a very, very good job with them this season so far. Really good stuff from Renee Hector as well. We'll do another podcast episode as well. We've got the Christmas season underway. I hope you have your Christmas tree up. I hope you have your lights up. I certainly have the Christmas tree lights up here. I want to thank you all for watching, and Merry Christmas to each and every one of you as well. Be well, be safe, be careful out there. And if you know anyone who's struggling, if you or anyone is struggling, please get help. There are hotlines across the UK and beyond to have mental health professionals talk to you and listen to you as well, most importantly, during what will be and what is often a very difficult time for a lot of people out there. So be careful, stay safe, tune into your mental health, spend time with family, friends, people that you love, people that you trust at Christmas. Have a good time, be safe, spend time with your families, and take care of yourselves as well. Thank you very much, Brown, for your kind comments as well. Thank you as well. Enjoy the fight. Thanks for that. And Matt, thank you as well. Have a great Christmas, Matt. Have a great Christmas, Brown. We'll see you all on Boxing Day as well for another chat about the team we love, as Matt says, no matter if they lose, win, lose, or draw. Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. I'm Omar. And until Boxing Day, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a very good night. Yo!